everyone. This is the Big Data Club, and welcome to our podcast on women in data and technology. So we are featuring Claire Calmejane during this episode, and I'm Elaine, and also together with me I have Chiara, and we'll be your host for today. So just a really brief introduction, the Big Data Club is actually a student society from ESCP Business School, and we have our mission, which is to share about big data to the wider community. So what we do on a daily or weekly basis is that we actually publish content and also organize events such as this to actually provide more information to the wider community about big data, technology, and also its related topics. So in this week, we actually organized the Women in Data and Tech Week, and we have a series of events lined up, including conferences and also podcasts. And within this podcast itself, we are really proud to have Claire, who's the CIO of Societe Generale, and we are really happy to have her on board to share with us about her career and also her insights and perspectives. So before we deep dive into the questions, maybe do you want to give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. I'm Claire Calmejane. I'm a mom of two kids who are 2 and 4 years old. My son, just had his birthday over the weekend. By background, I'm an IT engineer. Then, after having done my engineering degree, I went on to do 1 year at HEC to have, basically some skills around management. And so I entered in my career in consulting, in Capgemini Consulting, where I worked for 7 years in different countries. And I finished, as part of Capgemini, we had the partnership with MIT, where I spent 1 year to do a research around digital transformation. And after that, I was specialized in technology and financial services. And so I decided to leave Boston and go to live in London, where it was really the beginning of the FinTech ecosystem. And I've lived there for 7 years. And I decided to come back in France 2.5 years ago to take this job at Societe Generale, where I'm today the Chief Innovation Officer. So I basically oversee around 15 lines of business and 10 service units. So Societe Generale is a very, very large organization that have 7 retail banks, but also investment banking activities, capital markets, related financial services such as insurance, but also mobility businesses on car leasing, where we are leader in Europe. And so I oversee, I have 2 missions. The first one is to oversee the transformation of our current business model. And the second one is to create new business model. And for that, I created our, investment fund in startups, SGVentures, where we have already invested 200 million and done 5 acquisitions.
Nice, thanks so much, Claire. Yeah, I think that's really impressive. You actually take on so many roles, and it's really impressive on like how you can actually juggle your career and also your family at the same time. And thanks so much for taking your time. And probably we'll just ask about something further in like your interest within the finance industry. So like what actually piqued your interest within this finance industry, and how did you actually land in a top job like being the CIO in Societe Generale?
So it's a really good question, actually, and it was not only my doing. So when I started in consulting, I was lucky enough to work in a lot of different sectors. So I work in government, in airline, in banks, in retail. And one of my boss, because my underlying capability was technology, and one of my boss said, you know what, you need to choose a specialty. You need to specialize yourself in one segment and to understand very well this business, because you will contribute more in terms of the transformation, and in the long run, it's going to be a differentiator in your career. The risk being that you learn a little bit of each of the sector, but you don't basically have what we call the P shape. You end up T-shape, so you have a vertical and an horizontal, but you don't have strong vertical. So today, as a financial technology and the financial services and the technology shape with the management layer, and each of them are building blocks that I've built progressively over my career. Why I choose financial services about 7 years ago, more than some other sectors, I think it's really because for me, I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity to really rethink, the financial services industry. For me, this world was very complex. I am a woman. I'm lucky I grew up in Paris, so I had still a bank account near me. But I always find that this was reserved to a certain population. It was a complex world. I could not really understand it, and I was like, okay, there is really a role to play by having technology to democratize finance. And it was very early days of mobile banking. Mobile banking is not so old. When I was, when I was student myself, it was really the beginning of mobile banking, and I'm not so mobile technology, and I'm not so old. So, it was really the beginning of this movement, and I thought like I can do something here. I can make a difference. Now, how did I make it to the CIO job, to the top job? Honestly, it was not a plan. It was not something like I got up in the morning thinking, but it was something that at one point became obvious. So if you were looking, today, if you are looking in Europe for a woman capable to understand, so someone that is capable to lead digital transformation at large scale in financial services and is a woman, there is, two of them, or maybe three of them, that's it. And so it's by being in this very, very scarce pool, and by really combining differentiators that I managed to land the top job, because somehow, I think for Societe Generale, obviously they interviewed different candidates, but for example, the other candidates, they didn't have a financial services background. And also I made the choice at one point to go and live for more than 10 years abroad, to really perfect my English, to really, write and understand, because for me, top leaders, and that's the way I was seeing it, will speak English. And the third point, maybe very important, is I never forgot to have fun. I always wanted to enjoy what I do and to bring benefits. And this have led me, when you are talking about multiple jobs I have and titles, this have led me to consider that a job is just a job. And I love my job, and it's very important, and I love my team. But it's not the only thing I'm doing. I am doing it for a reason. I'm doing it because I'm supporting, startups and fintech ecosystem. I'm supporting entrepreneurs in order to access this complex world that now I understand very well, in terms of how can they set up their company, and etc. So I want to contribute in things that matter for me, such as women in technology and women in general in financial services. And at the end of the day, that made me stand out.
That's really great. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to follow up on that. You said one of the qualities of a leader is to be able to communicate and also to have fun. And maybe could you tell us a little bit more about your personal leadership style and what kind of leader you are?
So I had recently to answer this question, so I asked my team. But what they said is basically a visionary, very determined, and very driven towards results, pragmatic towards results. And the last point is a leadership capability, which is probably less standard than the traditional hierarchical pattern, but an ability basically to have people to collaborate and to work together around a mission, around a statement, and to some extent to go beyond themselves. So I think that's really the three characteristics that will stand out: the visionary and the future vision, and the ability to express and understand the underlying trends, but also translate them in economic reality, economic business model, to make them very tangible, and to showcase how new entrants basically are taking some part of the value chain of financial services and transforming it. The second area, which is very, very pragmatic, very driven towards results. I always say innovation is all about execution. For me, innovation is not about the dreamy part of the whiteboard. For me, it's really about making it concrete, making it real, bringing it to our colleagues, bringing it to our customers, and measure and get the data and go there, and doing that repetitively, and accepting that sometimes you need to fail fast and you will fail, but you need to systematically have this approach, have this methodology. And in terms of leadership, I think I was lucky enough to be very quickly appointed in senior positions, and I understood that I don't have to compensate for all the fact that I'm young and I don't have all the experience. So very early on for me, there was 2 points. I built team around me that that are very different from me and that will bring additional skill set components in a compensation mechanism, and therefore that constitute a real leadership team and a real traction. And the second thing is really to pay attention to the people in my team and in your team in the future, because at the end of the day, all what you do is because of your team. All what you do is because of that. And the thing you will be the most proud of, and I'm still very young, so I have the time to be proud of all my teams, is the fact that for me, I have trained maybe thousands of people, that have come to an innovation job in my team at one point, and, is going to a bigger job after. And, in my very short career, over the 15 years, most of the people that have worked with me or worked for me, I know today that they are, in a very good position, generally in a chief digital officer or chief strategy digital officer across the world in a large company. Some of them have set up startups. Some of them have, decided to go in investment funds. I'm lucky enough to have seen a variety of different, people flourishing and embracing really what they wanted to do.
Thanks so much, Claire. I think it really makes sense, and it's really impressive that you've actually coached so many people along the way. And it also kind of brings us to the point about like mentorship, right? Because when we look at like reports about like women being like kind of underrepresented, or actually there's like a gender gap between like males and females within like the tech or data related industry, we actually see that one of the reasons is actually because of like the lack of female role models. So I actually do understand, and I think it really does make sense that there is a significant, or like there is a leadership role model who is a female who can kind of like guide the way to for people like us, or like for like just people who just started early in their career, and to pave the way for us so that we can kind of know how we can actually succeed in future. So in your position, have you like come across like any mentor or any leadership position who you've actually looked up to, and maybe you can share that with us?
Yeah, I think all of them. The reality is behind all my big moves, even when I went in the US, it was one of my sponsors that really encouraged me to do that. When I decided to move to London, I mentioned to you, it was another sponsor that told me, go where you really want to work. And London was the capital of FinTech. When I decided to move back in France, actually, it was my husband that said like, you know what, I think you should do that, definitely. And it was not easy, we had our first child, I was pregnant of my second child, so is all this. So behind everything I've done for me, and it was my choices, but there have been people that were supporting me through this journey. Of course, in my career, I had, when I was younger, very traditional mentorship relation. So a mentor is really someone that will, guide you towards your, what you want to do, realizing your potential, understanding better who you are, with your skills, where are your strengths, and guiding this path in order. When I was talking about the P shape, understanding how do you build the bricks, which job do you need to take, and how you build this trajectory. Sponsors are different type of animals. Sponsors are people that will basically help you to get your project in visibility in front of the top management, in front of the market, in front of the government. They will champion your work and they will open their network. And that's really the job of a sponsor and the difference with a mentor. But in each of my, even today, I still have my sponsors which are present. Now I have a variety, I don't have a lot of them, but I have 2-3 of them, because they have different strengths in different areas. And for me, they act as advisor. And if they were not there, the challenge is when you are a mom of 2 kids, the day becomes busy very quickly. I operate a very busy job. I know when your question was, what is your typical day? There is no typical day in my job. You get up in the morning, it's different at each moment. But these advisors, they help me to maintain my North Star. and to remind me also, when sometimes when you operate a transformation like I do in my work, it's sometimes a bit burdening. Also remind me, okay, don't forget to have fun, spend your time with your kids, flourish your life. And sometimes also some of the secondary jobs or titles, such as advisors, they will help you to get there and do that, to not just focus on one role, because I think, in the world of tomorrow, you need to be very multi, it's even not a P shape, it's a round shape. You need to be very well-rounded, and especially in the field of data, you cannot go just for an expertise. You need to broaden your horizon all the time.
Great, that's so interesting. And my next question is actually more about the tech industry as a whole. So in past years, there have been lots of new players in the field in terms of online banks like N26 or Revolut. And my question is, how is Societe Generale keeping up with that?
Two answers. The first one is obviously, Boursorama, with also an online bank, is one subsidiary of Societe Generale. So in Boursorama, we today have more than 3 million clients. So it's actually one of the biggest neobanks of Europe, or online bank of Europe. And it's already a regulated, financial services company. So just to understand, Revolut and N26, when they started, they didn't have a license, a financial services license. They were a payment wallet. So they provided you a card, but they were mostly a technology company, provided you the digital interface. Where Boursorama, from the beginning, have been working and operating as a regulated environment. And today, you can do all your operation from trading, credit, consumer credit, mortgage, current bank account. We have metal cards in Boursorama as well. You have the Ultime card, which you will pay no fee when you go abroad. And, it's a preferred bank in France. So to be honest, that means that the content is very engaging. So that's one part of our strategy. Obviously, another one is we acquired back in 2018 a FinTech called Treezor, which basically provides the infrastructure of all these neobanks. So Lydia, Conto, Shine, Zelf, all of them, about 80 of the fintechs in Europe run in our Treezor platforms. So they are basically clients of Societe Generale, clients of the services of payments, cards, account management, KYC. All of that is supplied by Societe Generale. So actually, whilst they are not directly our clients, we're very happy to see them growing, to see these startups growing, because they're also another type of clients. The end client is not ours, but they are another type of client. So that's our two parts. The thing to not forget is even in the young population, not everyone wants a digital bank. So there is still a lot of people, I'm sure, at the ESCP that are interested to engage in banks that have branches, telephony, human contact, which are not the model of the digital bank, because the digital bank, at the end of the day, they're very streamlined process. They don't want to deal with exception. So they want you to engage, and offer a super delightful digital experience, because they don't want, at the end of the day, everything is made. So you will deal with chatbots, and you will deal with the maximum of the automation, the way the business model is built. So I think it's a relevant business model, and we see that it's fastly growing, but it's not the only one in banking. And also, let's not forget that, if we look at client segmentation, I hope that some of you at ESCP will one day form part of the mass affluent segment, wealthy customers. Why not set up your own enterprise? And for all these activities, you will go to a traditional bank like the brand Societe Generale in France.
Thank you. And also, speaking about the market segmentation, and you talking about like sometimes like younger consumers, they're actually not that receptive to like digital processes. And I would suppose that even the elderly generation as well, right? They might not be that receptive to going digital. Is there any like thing, or is there any like strategy which Societe Generale or maybe Treezor is doing to maybe try to change the behavior of such consumers?
So that's a very interesting question. people often think about that, but it's totally biased. So what happened in digital is there is no segmentation. Of course, at one point, it could be complicated to type on mobile, but actually there is no segmentation. You will find elderly that are totally comfortable with digital, young people that are totally rejecting digital. There is no clear cut of segmentation. The only thing I can tell you is that in Boursorama, our clients, the average client base is probably between 25 and 35 years old, and it's mostly living in a city, so urban places. So that's the only thing that we can say about the digital bank, which is owned by Societe Generale. But after, I cannot make any generality. And what's very important for us, we have a very clear CSR strategy in order to protect our customer. The business of the bank is really to play the role of a trusted party, as the heart of the business model of banking is you are lending us the money, and we operate lending, borrowing activities plus different additional services in order at the heart of our business model of banking. And we respect this trusted aspect even in the way we design digital. So for us, it's important that our digital capabilities, especially in our 7 retail banks, so 3 of them in France, but also Romania, Czech Republic, Russia, and Africa, is inclusive, accessible, and so therefore we'll pay extra attention all the time to make sure it's accessible for the maximum of our customers. To give you an idea, across the 7 retail banks, we have 30 million customers in total. 18 million of them, so 1/8, so 60% are active on digital channel. So they are not just enrolled, they go once a month minimum in order to engage with their mobile banking or digital banking. And average in Western Europe, in our banks, we see that they connect about 30 times a month in average, either through mobile or online. 30 times a month is huge. You figure out you enter 30 times a month in a branch, or you call your banker 30 times a month. So there is a real opportunity, and these numbers are really showing that our digital capability is engaging, that it's fitting the broader population, because if not, I will see lower rates.
Great, that's super interesting. Then I just have a question to follow up on what you said before. So you mentioned part of your job is transforming, and the other part is finding new business models. And I was wondering, when you invest in FinTech startups, what kind of criteria do you follow when choosing the startups to invest in?
Yes, so we're a traditional investor. So, you have different type of investor. You have venture capital. Sure, some of you will go in venture capital. You have private equity, which is, for bigger companies. And we are what we call corporate venture capital in SGVentures, which means that our investment thesis is mostly, so we are not trying like a VC to generate profit out of the investment we are making. That's not our first investment driver. Our first investment driver is a strategic fit between one of our business line and a startup. And generally, that starts, way before the investment, where there will be a commercial contract, an approach, between 2 companies. And as a commercial contract materialize, we will consider an investment. So to give you an example, we have set up a global market incubator. We have one in Paris, one in Singapore. Each year we recruit between 4 to 6 startups, and they also about 80% of them sign commercial contracts with our investment bank, and we've made investment in 2 or 3 of them. So that's the way generally it will work. Some of the acquisition we've done, Treezor, Shine, Rizoka, actually they were not totally opportunistic. Shine, we knew the guys for Nicolas and Raphael for 5 years. We've been talking to them when they were raising their Series A. We were, asking them, if they wanted, if they reach profitability, if we could support in providing other more traditional financing systems from the banking, traditional banking services. Treezor had pitched a lot in different of our business line. Rizoka, actually, we already had 1/3 of the investment that were already done. So when we did the acquisition, so it was not a new thing. So always, we have investment theses. We have topics of areas. So obviously, everything around fintech, operational efficiency, and mobility as a service are priorities. But what more importantly, we really look at the strategic fit with a business line.
Thank you. And also when you talk about like fintech startups, I'm sure you've also come across like a lot of startups like doing like maybe distributed ledger technology or like crypto assets related items. So is there any like significant technology which you've come across which these startups are doing that is worth noting for us? Or maybe you'll be able to share some of these interesting startups which you've actually come across?
Yes, so in everything around the distributed ledger technology, blockchain, obviously in financial services, there is a big underlying movement around the fact that, we had gold coins, and today we are transforming the coins in a digital token. And so, this opens a lot of opportunities, because as you are transforming some of your assets into digital, that means that it's not going to be only your money, but for example, a piece of art, or you have, a company that is French, that open football cards in digital called Solar, I think. And they basically, their business is worth millions because, they have created this digital card as collection cards that exist in the world. So we have these two, this movement of the digital tokenization of our assets for assets that are fungible. So basically money, and the non-fungible assets, so football cards, art, which are there. And that basically is supporting to have a better consolidation of your wealth. Now, when all of that is more tokenized, more digital, you have on top of that capability to increase digitally your level of savings, such as nudging, that will basically, increase what was more difficult yesterday to do savings, will start to do automatically, or allocation of your assets. So for example, in Societe Generale, we'd say, okay, you can aggregate your financial, non-financial assets, and you can generate by yourself for a private banking customer, how do you want to allocate this asset? Which type of investments do you want to make? So that's, a very important underlying change which is happening. These tokens will be created in a different typology. You will have some that are stable coin, so they basically state or converted into fiat currency, a token. You will have utility tokens such as the NFT that I mentioned, and security token, which are traditional digital assets. And I am not talking here about cryptocurrencies, because in the banking sector, we consider cryptocurrencies as very highly volatile and a very high risk investment. And therefore, in Societe Generale, we don't recommend to people to invest in this type of support, because there is a risk for your savings and for your investment. But when you were asking me about the startups will position themselves in the different offering or type of what I was mentioning. So some of the startups will be only in cryptocurrencies and will make their business around, a cryptocurrency wallet or managing cryptocurrency exchanges and etc. Some other startups will be around creating a stable coin. So for example, there is LUGH in France, LUGH, which was the first stablecoin created by Casino, which aimed to basically transfer some of your fidelity point from a shop called Monoprix to your fidelity point in a Franprix, and to basically offer additional services to their customers very transparently, and to integrate that at the payment moment of their when you are shopping online for retail. So they have a lot of different use cases they can think about. You have startups like SGVentures, which we created, which basically is a full infrastructure in capital market, which supports, the emission of covered bonds. So last year we did the first transaction worldwide, which, was a covered bond emission emitted on the blockchain, settled by Banque de France and converted in digital euro in their central bank digital currency. So, there are different levels where you can enter in this conversation. And in addition of that, you may have seen or heard about large crypto exchange, such as Coinbase, for example, which have IPO'd for 100 billion. 100 billion, it's like, it's a significant size, like the same as when Amazon was a bit younger, but these are super, super giant, that are emerging. And you have 4 or 5 exchanges of this type that are emerging in the world that are comparable to the traditional exchange, the Exchange of Paris or London Stock Exchange. To some extent, Coinbase is just the new generation, which is worldwide and cover worldwide of this type of area. Just to give you an idea, Euronext, I think the valorization is around between 27 and 30 billion, something like that. So Coinbase is already much bigger than Euronext in Europe, which cover a different set of exchange across Europe. Maybe the last one I could mention is around a company called Ledger. Ledger basically is providing the two phase of providing solution for wallet and enterprise, and the other part, for wallet and the retail customers, and the other part of in enterprise solution, which is more emerging, because obviously with the boom of cryptocurrency, a lot of the businesses have developed the retail platform and the retail services. Maybe, the last one is around, you start to see a couple of startups in this area around safekeeping of the keys. So basically, when you will register your digital asset in the blockchain, you need to tag it. And so there is a business of what we call, custody and safekeeping of the key. So you will need someone to take care of the custody of your digital assets and to make sure it's registered at the right place. So this business exists in the traditional world. In Societe Generale, we have a full business called SGSS, which is operating that and is in the plumbing, basically, of most of your investments. Most of your support, are at the end of the day using this factory that exists in banking. And, a crypto custody player are the digital version of that. So Ledger is one of them, but you can find other like Vault. There is a lot of. So, this area is. I'm going to stop there, but it's a full area, a full ecosystem which is emerging, and there are a lot of opportunities to go there. If you're asking me, I think it's a very important skills to have in the world of financial services. But as I was mentioning, you need to be careful when you choose out of ESCP where you want to work, because some of these businesses are, again, they're very, the investment in cryptocurrency, very high volatility, very risky investment. So, for me, I do a job that is always also to work for good and work for the planet. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire. Yeah, I think that's a really comprehensive explanation. And of course, we do understand that like this whole crypto assets or cryptocurrency topic is actually really huge and encompasses like so many different areas. And also like there's so much volatility within things like cryptocurrencies, right? But when you are talking about like stable coins and maybe CBDCs, which are like the more stable kind of currencies, do you actually see like how do you actually see this field panning out, like for maybe there to be like a digital euro, and maybe when do you think this thing would actually potentially roll out for maybe in Europe or like in the world? Because we've actually seen like there's so many pilot projects, like for example in Singapore there's like the project Ubin, which is also like a pilot project to try to see like how this distributed ledger technology can be used to enhance like payments, and also to help to see how the payments system will actually progress. So I'm quite interested to see like what's your take on this?
Yes, so they are already live. So the CBDC retail, for example, in China, the EU one is already live. So it's already operating in part of the globe. the e-krona, as you mentioned, is also in test in Sweden. The urban project is a little bit more like the project with Banque de France, where they aim to test wholesale CDBCs. And so I really invite you to read my latest newsletter, because I had done a full blog, and we actually interrogated the head of innovation of Singapore, who is talking about Project Urban, and you also have a different countryside. And it's important because at the end you have the CDBC retail and the CDBC wholesale. I think in China, you know, the reality is there was a lot of underbanked population, and having a retail CDBC was a real way to also bank this population, get them started in the real economy, and start to build savings and start to consolidate, you know, their life and their family, you know, the transfer of money, you know, how do you support, you know, your family ecosystem, and etc. In Europe and in Sweden, you know, they're already cashless for a couple of years. If you've been in Copenhagen or Sweden, you can only pay by your credit card. It's a long time that they are not using cash. And therefore, you know, the digitalization of the krona, I think for me, was something quite natural for them in terms of the evolution of payment facility, because everywhere you go, you already have a way to pay with your mobile. At the moment, it's a virtual card. So honestly, little difference between a virtual card and a e-krona, even if, you know, there could be difference in the implementation. In mature ecosystem, like in France, for example, we'll have to really think what is the advantage of a digital currency on retail. So I think it's more likely that we're going live first with the wholesale CDBC, and that's what we are expecting with Forge. And we've been working obviously with the French regulator for the past 3 years with Forge. So I think now it's proven that the technology is working, and we had the opportunities basically to understand better the risks that are introduced, and therefore have the appropriate regulation. And for me, you know, that's probably the first one that we go live, and the same like in Singapore. The retail CDBC, obviously there is the consultation of the ECB, which is live. Christine Lagarde, I think, have set ambition through the press to say that she would like to implement a digital euro by 2025. So we are yet to wait. The last month, the report of the consultation was published. And I think we are waiting now in June that she's commenting them, or that one of the top person of the ECB is commenting them. So we'll see further. But for me, what's important is it needs to bring value. So a stablecoin like Claire, I understand the value. You know, it needs to bring some advantage for the consumer as well.
Maybe just a final question to wrap up for our students that could be listening to this podcast. Do you have any final advice or takeaways or tips for students who want to work in the FinTech area?
Definitely. I mean, the first one is, build your network. So go on LinkedIn, set up your profile, look to follow, the FinTech, the founders. You can follow me because I published regularly blogs on this area. I try to support some of the startups to get more visibility in the ecosystem. So build your profile, your network on the social media, really follow that. The second thing is when you work in a startup, often, so if they're a little bit bigger, like Conto, okay, you can maybe go in Welcome to the Jungle in their which is a standard website in France, or and there will be job offers. But a lot of time, you really need to go to their meetup, to try to understand their products, to approach a couple of people in the startups, 4 or 5, to really understand what they are doing. Because in the pitch to a startup, you need to really say what I'm going to bring. It's the same in the corporate, but as I mentioned, when we are bigger, we are a little bit more organized. In a startup, it's fast growing. So, generally it's really, having a network and really being able to say, I want to do that, I understand what it is, and etc. is very important. And maybe the third part is to be very persistent. Startups, I oversee a lot of them in SGVentures. the people, they don't have the time, like they are always working, they are very fast growing, they're very focused around growing their business, their clients. And the reality is that it's not that they don't pay attention to recruitment. Recruitment is super important, but they don't always have the time. So you need to be persistent. And a no is not a definitive no. It's a no for this job. It's a no at this time. And you need to say, okay, maybe can I recontact you in 1 month, in 2 months? Time in a startup goes very fast. Or maybe they say no, and 2 weeks after they realize actually we are missing one person then. So be very persistent, and it will pay off.
Great. Thank you so much, Claire, for this great podcast and interview. And thank you to our Big Data Club listeners. And yeah, don't hesitate to follow us on social media.